couple of weeks ago, I did a video entitled 7 Forgotten Hoyas. And I thought, as I was looking around the plant room, that there were still some others that, for whatever reason, I never think about. It's not that they're not good plants, they're probably in the back someplace or something like that. So join me with a tasty beverage of your choice close to hand while we take a look at 8 more forgotten Hoyas. And before we begin, a quick thank you to everybody who took the time to add a comment to last week's question and discussion about do you have a range that you'll spend? You won't go beyond that. It seems like most people do have a range. They have like an upper limit, and that also is something I do. And it also seems like occasionally we don't pay attention to that, which I also do. So it was very fun. You guys are very, very funny. You've got great senses of humor. I love reading the comments. So yeah, really, really appreciate that. That was kind of cool. So as usual, the kids are all lined up over here, and with your tasty beverage nearby, let's get this show on the road, or on the film, or something like that. And the first Hoya up today is this Hoya plicata. Now, Hoya plicata is native to peninsular Malaysia and was first published in 1908 in the Journal of the Asiatic Society of Bengal, Part 2, by George King and James Sykes Gamble. And I got this Hoya as a thank you cutting, a little thank you cutting in 2002, October of 2002, along with a purchase that I had made. And I thought, as soon as I took it out of the package, it was like, those leaves are just beautiful. I mean, I think they're very, very pretty. I think the characteristics are just stunning. Now, this one I struggled a little bit at first. Again, I moved it to pond and self-watering from whatever happy medium it had been in. And it took it a while to recover. And once I got it settled into pond and self-watering, it's, it's kind of happy in there. It's been growing like crazy. It hasn't bloomed for me yet. And it sits over there. So it's my southeast facing window just at the edge of it. So the sun comes up over there. It gets some very early morning sun. The leaves are, I would call them a medium weight. Some nice raised veining in them, a little bit of splash. It seems to like that setup. The vines are, new growth there. The vines are a little woody, so it means it doesn't hold much moisture in the vines themselves. But the leaves are, I always hate to use the word succulent with Hoya leaves because then people think of them as succulents. That's that whole noun adjective thing we've discussed before. This is very pretty. I'm going to keep it going. It's doing fairly well. It's on one of my optimistic trellises. So that's 24 inches. So it's getting there. And it's doing well. So yeah, I'm happy with this one. This one came from the Hoya Girl on Etsy. And this is Hoya plicata. The next forgotten Hoya is this Hoya species MAO3. Now, where to start? I loved this Hoya the moment I saw the leaves. They've got nice raised veins. There's a little bit of a margin. I don't know how much of that's going to show up, so I'll put some stills over on the side here. But I saw a picture of it and wanted it right away. And at the time, it was toward the upper edge of my comfort range in terms of pricing. But I went ahead and ordered it because I thought it was so beautiful. Now, the name, dipping into the tasty beverage. I know the feeling, I appreciate it. About the name, MA is the acquisition number of someone I only know as Herman. Now, the M comes from man in his name, Herman, and the A comes from Anjuk Ladang, which is where he lives in East Java in the Philippines, in Indonesia. Now, I've heard several stories about Herman. His Hoyas are usually very, very pretty. I don't know if they are Hoyas he has collected, or if they are Hoyas that he has produced, if they're hybrids. One story said that they're all hybrids because he has several of them. Another story I found said that he is a responsible collector who collects in the wild and then raises the ones he sells in his own garden grow space home for sale, so he's not continually collecting from the wild. I would think, I have no basis for what I'm about to say. I would think if he was a collector that these Hoyas would have been published, not necessarily by him, but by someone else, because there are several of them with that MA acquisition number. My guess is, and again, I don't know for sure, and if somebody knows, like for sure, for real, for sure, let me know in the comments. I'm thinking that these are hybrids that he's created, which is fine. It's very cool. I think the leaves are just beautiful. Nothing wrong with that. I think I've shown you that one. Nothing wrong with those. Those are very pretty. It's a nice looking plant. To me, it looks like there's a verticillata involved in it someplace. And the ones that he has are frequently listed as species affinity verticillata or species affinity densifolia. But to my eye, this looks verticillata all over the place. And as we know, everything's a verticillata now. So, yeah. Anyway, this one also came from, this is the one I ordered from the Hoya Girl on Etsy. And the other one came as the thank you cutting with it. And this is Hoya species or cultivar MA03. You have seen my Hoya crassipetiolata, so it's not what I would ever consider. Why am I struggling with it now? It's not what I would ever consider a forgotten Hoya. It's really beautiful. It's very neat. It's going after the tasty beverage too. But this is not the forgotten one. The forgotten one is my crassipetiolata with the descriptor splash. Now this one, well, let's talk about in general. Hoya crassipetiolata is native to Vietnam. It was first collected in 2016 in Dien Bien province and at a height of 1,100 to 1,400 meters. So it's probably a cooler growing Hoya. It was first published in 2017 in Nicholsoniae by Leonid Vladimirovich I got this right the first time I said it. Leonid Vladimirovich Avanyarov, Van Te Pham, and Tuan An Le. And I've probably butchered those two Vietnamese names, and I'm apologizing for it. I try. Anyway, these leaves are very splashy and very pretty. And I think the reason I forget about this one is that it didn't do anything for a very, very long time. Now I got this one in, that'd be September of 2002. So it's been here a little over 2 years. And well, it's found the reservoir. Oh, that needs to be cleaned up. It's found the reservoir. So that's probably some of what's responsible for this new growth. It's very pretty. Yeah, that was just not a good place for that leaf, was it? Our leaf got deformed right in here by pressing up against the trellis. But it didn't do anything, so I kind of like relegated it to a further back corner and left it alone to, live or don't live. Sometimes you look at the plant and say, okay, your call, live or don't live, I can't, I've done what I can do. But this one is finally taking off, which is very cool. I think a full plant of leaves like that would be very pretty. The other one grows like crazy. It also took this one a while to get going, so that may be a crassipetiolata thing. But we're doing fine here. It's going along. So yeah, no complaints. It just lives in kind of the back corner, and I recently moved it to someplace new and thought, you haven't talked about this one yet. This one came from Plants Wake You Up, and this is Crassipetiolata Splash. And the next one that I usually forget to talk about is this Hoya deykeae. Now, I should talk about the spelling first. I've seen Hoya deykeae, Deykeae, but when I tried to research that and checked with the Q database, it's not there. They do have a plant that's named Hoya deykeae, Deykei. I think those two spellings are the same plant. I'm not sure about that. I'm still researching it. So I'm sticking with what Q says for right now. Not the Q on Star Trek The Next Generation, KEW, Kew Gardens. Okay? So future me here. After I filmed the segment on Hoya deykeae, I did some more research because I couldn't figure out why it was showing up as Deykei in Q's database. So as I said, I did some more research, did some digging around, and found out that it was originally published with that spelling, that name, deykeae. But at a future date, and I couldn't find out exactly when, the spelling of the name was changed to Deykeae, so that it would align with the rules and regulations of the International Code of Nomenclature for Cultivated Plants. So the correct and accepted spelling now is Deykeae. And Q, you need to update your database. I found the correct spelling of that information through the International Plant Names Index. So back to the rest of the video, which is still entertaining and delightful, and you will enjoy it because I've already seen it. Anyway, Hoya deykeae is native to Sumatra in Indonesia, and it was first published in 2000 in Fraterna by Ted Green. And it was named in honor of Deykeae van Donkelaar. And hopefully I haven't butchered that Dutch name too much. And I don't know why I don't mention this plant more, because it's just freaky gorgeous. Wait, hide me. There we go. There we go. This plant and I had a bit of a learning curve. There's a little bit of sulfur on that. Some of it's splash, but the finer stuff is sulfur. It came with these original leaves down here, like these two. And it didn't do much for a long time. And then I moved it into a self-watering pot and started giving it, what's going on there? Oh, okay. I started giving it regular feedings, actually self-watering so it gets a nutrient solution, and gave it brighter light. And the first leaves that it came with were kind of pale. And the leaves that came in after that are just beautiful, gorgeous, dark green leaves with, try not to spill it everywhere, with lots of gorgeous splashing on them. I mean, holy moly, that's pretty. And it's grown really well since then. It has bloomed for me several times, and I'll try and remember to find pictures and put them over here for your viewing entertainment. The vines are kind of woody, which to me usually indicates that the vines themselves aren't terribly succulent. The leaves are kind of thin, and I would not describe them as terribly succulent. It's getting a little close to the grow light, so it's getting some sun stress on this top leaf. And I think, I'm looking, it lives over here. I'm looking at the shelf now, and I think I may turn down the lights just a bit more, because stuff on that shelf seems to be sun stressing. Anyway, I love this plant. This is so cool. Those leaves are big and funky and textured, and they're rigid. They're like plastic rigid. Beautiful color, beautiful splash. It's getting kind of big, so there's a little bit of vine dieback. That's fun. A little bit of vine dieback. Watering got a little difficult this summer when it got so hot. Anyway, this is really cool. I should not forget this plant because I really, really like it, and I think it's worth looking into. This is Hoya deykeae, sometimes spelled D-E-Y-K-E-A-E, but Q says it's D-E-Y-K-E-I. And the next one that I forget about is my Hoya nicholsoniae. And again, I don't know why I forget about this one. It's fine. Perhaps because it really hasn't staggered me with anything. It hasn't bloomed for me yet. I had it, I want to see when it first got here. It got here in December of 2022. Oh, before we get on. Hoya nicholsoniae is native to New Caledonia, New Guinea, Queensland, Australia, Samoa, and the Solomon Islands. And there's a notation on the herbarium sheet that says AUSTRAL, which might indicate that it was first found in Queensland, Australia. It was first published in 1866 in Fragmenta Phytographiae Australiae by Ferdinand Jakob Heinrich von Müller. And it's a pretty enough plant. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. you know, those leaves are nice. I like the lighter veins. There's some tiny little bits of splash, but you would never describe this as a splashy plant. It lives down here. I think it might like, I'm rethinking the light levels in a lot of my shelves now because some of the plants are getting a little pale. And as I've mentioned, it seems, at least under my conditions, that solid green leaves like this usually can do with less light and thrive under less light. But this is all of a sudden, actually the problem was that I had this in bark and sphagne, which means it probably came in some kind of substrate like that. Maybe it was in sphagne, maybe it was, I'm trying to remember, but that was 2 years ago and I barely remember last week. So it probably came in something like that, or that was my preferred medium at the time. And so I moved it into bark and sphagne in a net pot, 4-inch net pot with a cover pot. And it grew a little bit, but it was, I like bark and sphagne in the net pot. It's really good and airy, but it doesn't hold enough moisture for a plant once it starts really growing. It needs self-watering. And if I'd done bark and sphagne and self-watering, it probably would have been really happy, but I decided to go ahead and move it to pond. And, ooh. Well, I guess it's kind of happy down there. And when I did that, it started growing. So it sits off to one side. The light source is here. That's why all the leaves are on one side of this. It's really doing well. Again, the vines are kind of woody, so any succulence is going to be in the leaves. And they're slightly succulent. So it's going to want a regular supply of water, of moisture, clearly. It's going to want to be fed, clearly. And without guilt tripping it, bloom, come on, 2 years. I've been good to you. I treat you nice. Okay, you don't get shown off a lot, but here you go. Look, they love you. They love you. Anyway, this has been good. It's a good grower. I like the plant. Yeah, just, get creative with me, okay? This came from Taproot Nurseries on Etsy, and this is Hoya nicholsoniae. The next forgotten Hoya is this. This is species NR001. And I know almost nothing about this Hoya. This came as a thank you cutting with an order from Plants Wake You Up. NR is the acquisition number for Ning Navaporn. And I haven't found much about him or this plant. And it didn't do much, again, it's the same old story. It didn't do much for a while until I did self-watering. So I said that's not necessarily pond, but self-watering makes a huge difference. The leaves are kind of pretty. There's varying levels of splash. You can see a little bit on that one. But then there's leaves that have big patches of splash. And then there's leaves that have, I'm banging into lights and everything else, larger patches of splash. It's a pretty Hoya. It's, once I got it into self-watering, and I'll bet, oh yeah, once we found the reservoir, it's been very happy and growing like crazy. It has a couple of peduncles. There's one here. There. It's right in there. And there's another one. Where was it? There's another one on here someplace. And it set buds twice on each peduncle and then blasted them. So I haven't seen the blooms yet. It has been suggested to me that this is some kind of affinity parasitica, which could be, and those leaves are rigid. They're a little thick too. Again, kind of woody vine and semi-succulent thickness leaves. It's doing really well since it's found its food source. It's getting a decent amount of light. It lives up there behind that coriacea. So it's happy, it's growing. It's interesting. What are you doing in there? Don't, there. I don't know if that's better or not, but I feel better about it, and that's all that matters. So yeah, this is interesting. If anybody knows any more about species NR001, then yeah, please add it to the comments or drop me an email, and we'll carry on from there. But again, another forgotten Hoya that I probably shouldn't forget about. This is Hoya species NR001. Next up is this Hoya species AH074. Now, this comes from AH Hoyas in Chang Wat, Ratchaburi, Thailand. And I have read several differing descriptions of what this plant is. Some people say it's a carnosa. Others say it's a Carnosa gray ghost crossed with pubicalyx, which, looking at it, could be. But that's all I've been able to figure out so far. And granted, you know, I can only spend so much time doing that kind of stuff when I could be in front of the camera entertaining you. And I ordered this, and it's a beautiful plant, because I couldn't afford Wilbur Graves. And I think a lot of people fell into that same boat. Now, this one's been here since October of 2022. And it had some, the leaves, those are beautiful. There's no two ways about it. Those are just beautiful. Is that the one? Yeah. That's really, really pretty. You can't argue with that. So it had some splashy leaves, and then it put out a couple of all dark green vines, or vines where all the leaves looked like that. And I sat down with the plant and I said, listen, I'm glad you're growing well. Those almost solid leaves are really pretty, but that's not why you're here. You're here for that. So I trimmed off the vines that were coming in solid green. And it was reduced down to not much. Not much. But when the new vines came in, I started getting, that kind of stuff. Wait, cover me, there we go. Where's my protocol? There we go. Cover me, show the plant. Started doing that kind of stuff, this kind of stuff, so it definitely got better. I think the reason I forget about it is because it was a substitute. It was a close second. It was a bridesmaid, never a bride. As I said, I bought it because I couldn't afford Wilbur Graves at the time. Not that well, no, I've seen Wilbur graves all over the place. So, you know, and I have two of them now. So anyway, this has been a nice grower. Once I got it going in the path I wanted, but again, see these two new leaves are, yeah, these new leaves are just green. A little bit of splash, enough splash, but you know, not like this. So I'm going to keep it around. It lives on this top shelf back here in the corner. See, I'm getting a theme here, corner. And I'm going to give it a little more love and attention because it's been growing. It's been growing. It grows fine for me. I just, you know, don't make me trim you again. This is Hoya species AH074. Now, the next one, a lot of you are going to recognize, and perhaps wonder why I did to it what I did to it. This is Hoya Sunrise. Now, Hoya Sunrise is a cross between Hoya lacanosa subspecies pallidiflora and Hoya obscura, and it still is an extremely popular Hoya because when the leaves sunstress, they sunstress like that. And I was never sure that I liked sunstressing or doing that to a plant. I'm still not sure I like it, but I'm better with it because I've had some Hoyas that sunstress a bit and they do look kind of neat. Maybe it's just that whole word stress. I'm at a point in my life where I don't need stress. Anyway, I found this when I took a trip to Logis. When was this? This was in 2023, so September of 2023, so a little over a year. And they had Hoya Sunrise at a reasonable price. And I thought, okay, let's see what the hype is all about. Let's get one. So I did, and it was okay. It grew like that, and there's not anything wrong with that, but it was really, really pokey at first. I'm sure this needs to be up potted. Oh no, oh, that's okay. If it's been here that long and it doesn't need to be up potted, it needs to be repotted. So it poked around and didn't do much for a while, and a lot of people let these trail. I think that's probably the most common way of growing these. But trailing plants take up a lot of room in my plant room, so vertical. And most of these Hoyas grow vertically in nature anyway. So anyway, I went vertical with it. And it poked around and didn't do anything. And then in the last, let's say 6 to 9 months, it started growing. And it's put out a peduncle here, hiding down there. It's put out a peduncle up here. But it hasn't bloomed yet. Not that I'm pressuring it, but you know, everybody here works. So earn your keep. This was a Michael Miyashiro hybrid, and he worked in Hawaii. So yeah, very cool. I understand why people like it. It's starting to get full. I mean, it's putting out, there's a new vine here. This is an older vine. There's a couple other new vines. It's going, it's looking neat. It's getting closer to the grow light, which is why we are getting those neat sun stressing colors. I'm going to try and up pot it shortly, and then I might, no, I'm not going to let it trail. I don't have room for that. I don't have that kind of vertical space. So yeah, we'll get him a new trellis, we'll get him a new pot, we'll see what we can do about it. But this has been okay. Far better than I thought. I had very low expectations on this one. I bought it to try it out, and I have, and it's okay. So yeah, this is Hoya Sunrise. This week's question is, well, it's kind of for me, just curiosity. I post these videos on Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time in the United States. That's on the East Coast of the US. What time and day of the week do you typically watch? So at the time I typically post these, it's 8 a.m. in Sydney tomorrow. And in Wellington, it's 10 a.m. tomorrow. In Poland, I have friends in Poland. Well, viewers in Poland. We're becoming friends. And it's 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. today. Kenya, it's midnight. Japan, it's 6 a.m. tomorrow. So just out of curiosity, since I'm guessing, I've had people who watch tell me, oh, I watch it Saturday mornings or I watch it Sunday afternoons. What day and time do you typically watch? I always think of it as being Friday afternoon after work, but it may not be for most of you. This time thing is really interesting. Anyway, so in the comments below, let me know what day of the week and time of day that you typically watch. At the end of the year, I'm going to do another thing of tell me where you're located, and we'll run through that again because that was really cool. But let me know what day of the week and what time you typically watch. And yeah, that'll be fun. And I want to thank you for choosing to spend a little bit of your time with me this week's end, if it is this week's end for you. Please remember to click the thumbs up like button, that's really important, the subscribe button, and the notification bell. They all contribute to the growth of my channel, and I appreciate your efforts in that. A lot of the products that you've seen me use are available through my Amazon storefront. I get a small commission on the sale, but it doesn't change or affect your price in any way, shape, or form. It does help support the channel. If you'd like to directly support the channel, you can click on the link in the description to my Buy Me a Coffee page, or this little 3 dots thing down here, and then there should be a button that says thanks, and YouTube handles all of that. Links to videos over here as usual, and enjoy the rest of your week's end, if it is your week's end, and if it's not, enjoy it anyway.